Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday night, and it's time for another episode of Friends and Fiction. So, tell your significant other to put dinner, in the microwave later on. Anyway, we are really looking forward to tonight, so let's get started. By the way, I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
I'm Kristin Harmel.
I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians. Tonight, we're talking with Lisa Unger, whose gripping new thriller will have all of us looking sideways at the tribe that we call family.
If we already aren't. Right?
Yeah.
Especially this time of year, right?
Holidays are coming up. And don't forget, as you know, we continue to encourage you to support independent booksellers. And one way you can do that is to visit our own Friends and Fiction bookshop.org page, where we strongly suggest that you check out Lisa Unger's books and books by the 4 of us and all of our guests at a discount. They make the perfect gift.
Yeah.
Did someone say perfect gift? Because, yes, we also wanted to tell you about something really fun we have going on with our friends at Oxford Exchange. So in the spirit of the season, they are offering our signature Friends and Fiction t-shirts, buy one, get one free. One for you, one for a friend, or an extra for laundry day. I mean, you can really work out a rotation where you're washing one, wearing one, and then you really can be in a Friends and Fiction shirt all the time. Mm-hmm. So we'll be wearing ours for our Thanksgiving episode next week, where we'll be celebrating independent bookstores with a Thanksgiving tea party. And that, of course, is TEE party. You can join us by wearing your t-shirt while you watch, and make sure to send us pictures of you wearing your t-shirt. We will pick 2 winners to receive a special Friends and Fiction reading package. Just use code FFBOGO, that's FFBOGO, at checkout. And Kristy, where should we send those pictures?
You can send them to me, Kristy, at KristyWoodsonHarvey.com, or you can send them to our Friends and Fiction email address too, which is, I think, friendsandfiction@gmail.com. But just send them to me. I'm collecting.
Awesome. And I want to remind you about our Writer's Block podcast with all of us. We take turns with our librarian rock star pal, Ron Block. And we will always post links under announcements. We drop them every single Friday. And the most recent episode, Ron talked to Jennifer Coburn about her new novel, Cradles of the Reich. And coming this Friday, Ron and Kristy talked to author Tori Whitaker about her brand new historical novel, A Matter. That's why I drink water during the show. A Matter of Happiness. And I read the book, and I haven't heard the podcast yet. I can't wait, but the book is really great.
Yeah, it's a really great show. She was super interesting. But so now you know that every week we love doing an Ask Us Anything. And in the after show tonight, we'll be taking some of those questions. So stay for that and keep asking, and we'll keep answering.
Okay, now to the main event. Let's introduce Lisa.
All right. So Lisa Unger is the internationally best-selling author of 20 novels, including Last Girl Ghosted and Confessions on the 745. Her books have been published in 32 languages, and millions of copies have been sold worldwide. Her novels have also been featured on best book lists from The Today Show, Good Morning America, Entertainment Weekly, and many others. In fact, Secluded Cabin Sleep 6, which we are here to talk about tonight, was named Book of the Week in People magazine last week. How cool is that?
That is
Very
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
She has been nominated for or won so many awards, including Strand Critics, Audie, Hammett, McCavity,
McCavity.
ITW Thriller, and Goodreads Choice. In 2019, she received two Edgar Award nominations, an honor only held by a few authors, including Agatha Christie. And she has the great honor of being an F&F favorite.
What an honor. I mean, of all of those, I think that's
Of all those.
That's the best. Yeah.
We should get like a trophy for that, like a little lady instead of the man.
I love it. Lisa is the current co-president of the International Thriller Writers Organization. How she has time for that, I do not know. Her 2019 novel, Confessions on the 745, is currently in development for a Netflix series starring Jessica Alba, which is so exciting.
So cool.
She lives on the west coast of Florida with her family, and her new novel, Secluded Cabin Sleep 6, was just released on November 8th.
Bring her in, Sean. Oh, there she is.
Hi, guys. You're right. That is the biggest honor, is to be your friends and
I don't think so, but okay. We are so thrilled, Lisa, to have you back with us.
Thank you.
First off the bat, tell us about this dark ride of a novel, Secluded Cabin Sleep 6. What's it about? And then what's it really about?
Yeah, so Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 is about 3 couples who head out to a luxury cabin deep in the woods. It's Hannah and her brother Mako, their spouses Bruce and Liza, and their family friend Cricket and her mysterious new boyfriend. And they're looking for a much needed disconnect from their very hectic modern lives. But of course, they're hauling with them all sorts of baggage in the form of secrets and lies. And there's, a stranger lurking in the periphery just out of sight. And the stranger is running a dark agenda of revenge. There's a storm brewing and cell phone service is spotty. So really, what could go wrong?
I don't know.
Oh, it's going to be fine. It's really about, it's about family. It's about identity. It's about, the secrets we keep from our family members, the secrets that we keep from each other, and, how we're all connected in mysterious ways.
Oh, I love that. All right. So, Lisa, you've been called a master of the atmospheric suspense novel. And in this book, you've truly given us just this twisty, multi-layered journey, which is, although nothing happens that's bad to the characters.
No, I mean,
as
gonna
Sean
all
pointed
be
out.
fine.
Yeah.
Totally
yeah.
fine. Nothing bad.
Totally fine. Yeah. So, where did this journey to a secluded mountain cabin start for you? And did you have an idea of where the trip would ultimately take your protagonist?
Yeah, so there were a couple of different things that sort of dovetailed to, be the inspiration for Secluded Cabin Sleep 6. And first was sort of my ongoing obsession with DNA testing. I've had this kind of fascination with that technology now for a while. And like in Last Girl Ghosted, I did a kind of a deep dive into online dating, and Confessions on the 745 was like about, social media and how it, sort of undermines our privacy and stuff. So in the case of this book, I was interested, I was already interested in this technology, but not in the technology itself as much as it, like all of them, how it rewrites the way we relate to each other, how it changes the way that we find out about who we are. And that, when you take one of these tests, the chances are that you're going to find out something very surprising about yourself or your family, and then you're not going to be able to unknow that thing. And so I found that really fascinating, but that was like kind of an ongoing obsession. And then during the pandemic, my family and I, we took some trips to very beautiful, luxurious cabins, in the woods. Some of them were actually in Blue Ridge. Some of them were in Asheville. And, they were, very beautiful and, but also isolated. And, unfortunately, when I go on vacation, I have to take myself with me,
Yeah.
So it was always like my thriller writer's brain is always turning. It's like, look how wonderful this is. I wonder what could go horribly wrong. Like that's just sort of, an occupational hazard.
Yep.
And some of those trips, involved my extended family. And I don't know if you've ever traveled with your extended family, but, maybe you found it inspirational as well.
We're using inspirational loosely.
Yeah, this is an aside, and
Inspirational.
this is a story for another day. But there's a book called
for sure. Yeah.
there's a book called Unsolved Disappearances in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and there was a time that I was pretty sure I was going to be a chapter of that. So if I wrote what you wrote, it would have been great inspiration. But unfortunately, doesn't really work its way into my books.
Okay, so Lisa, we were together last week with our mutual pal, Karen Slaughter.
We were.
And the topic, and she's sort of like a fan favorite of Friends in Fiction. And it's hard to say that many F's all in a row.
Yeah.
Without adding another F
Not like
word.
all the S's. Secluded Cabin, Sleep 6.
Yeah,
Friends
tongue
in Fiction,
twister.
favorite. Yeah.
If you had braces, and which I did like 5 years ago, it would be hard to say secluded cabin.
It would be.
So the topic of writing on the dark side came up.
Yeah.
And I remember Karen talked about that she started her sort of inspiration for writing the kind of books that she writes was when she was growing up in Atlanta. The news coverage of the Atlanta missing and murdered child cases deeply affected her.
Yeah.
And influenced her writing style. And then you mentioned, and I hope you'll talk to us a little bit about that tonight, about what prompted your interest in crime writing.
Yeah, so I always had like kind of a dark imagination. Like I was just sort of a weird kid. I had like very gothic appetites, even at a young age, for fiction and stuff like that. And then, when I was a teenager in New Jersey, a girl that I knew was abducted and murdered. She wasn't a close friend, but she was a friend. And we played on the same school orchestra together. We played violin together, and it was a horrific, horrible event in our town. This young girl she'd missed the bus. She'd walked home from school, which should have been perfectly fine. Everybody walked home from school. It was like one of those places where you move your family to be safe. It was like a semi-rural town, like, about an hour and 40 minutes from New York City. So, like one of those places where you always think that you're safe. Mm-hmm. And it was, her abductor had been watching her, and this was his opportunity to take her. And, I do very much so, I saw the world one way before that happened, and I saw it another way after it happened. And I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions about, why her? Why this girl? Why him? What made him who he was, that he would do this kind of a thing to someone? And these are questions that, nobody wants to answer. No adult wants to answer those questions for you. And, you think it's because they just won't. But the fact is, and you don't know this until you're a mom yourself, is that you just can't. They can't answer it. Right. So I sort of started to, have these really, started reading very dark stuff, started writing very dark stuff. And I think in a sense, I was just trying to metabolize that darkness in a way and sort of, look for answers to my questions on the page.
Yeah.
Wow. That reminds me of the story of the woman who wrote the California, the Golden
State.
Yeah, the Golden State Killer book.
Yeah.
And she was growing up in Chicago, suburban Chicago. Mm-hmm. Something similar happened, and she talked about she was obsessed with it. She and her friends would ride their bikes, and
yeah. I mean, you do get obsessed with things, especially if you're a certain kind of kid, if you're a smart and creative kid, and you sense that there are things that people are not sharing with you, or they don't want to, or they can't, and you tend to. And there's something frightening about that. There's something frightening about the fact that even the adults in your life can't order the chaos that you perceive in the world. And so if you're a certain kind of kid, I think you turn to creativity to metabolize that in some way.
That's a great
point. That's such a good point. Well, you open this novel with a Tolstoy quote that I just absolutely love. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. It's so good. So talk to us about how your protagonist, Hannah, discovers the truth about her own family.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting opening. I opened it on Christmas night. Everybody's sort of, they're having their dinner, and of course, it's like, it's one of those family celebrations, which I'm sure is a lot like your own. Just completely joyful with no dysfunction whatsoever. No sniping or layers or predatory behavior or nothing like that, right? Everyone's like laughing.
Does that ever happen? Okay.
I don't know any families like that, but I'm sure that your family is like that. And so, they're sort of gathered around the table, and everybody's like kind of doing their thing, like playing the role in the family script that they've all written for each other. And the dinner's over, but then a stack of presents is kind of found behind the tree. Leo, Hannah's dad, finds a stack of presents, and nobody will take credit for it. It says it's from Santa. And so the presents get handed out, and everybody opens it, and everybody receives a DNA testing kit, and everybody has a really different reaction. And that's kind of meant to be like sort of the first moment where you have to ask yourself, what are each of these people going to find out about the family that's gathered around this table when they take this test, if they take this test. Some of them say they're not going to take it. Some of them are going to throw it away. Some of them are going to, do whatever, we don't know. So that's kind of, the first open doorway into kind of questions about this family. And so Hannah has, a role that she plays in her family. Like, she's the good girl. She's the mediator. She's the one who tries to fix everything. She cleans up everybody's mess, especially her brother and their family friend Cricket. They were like the wild kids, and Hannah was like the good one. And so, I'm always interested in, as part of our identity, like this role that we play in our families. Like, we all know that there's like a script, right? And you have a place in your family. And if you try to act off book, so to speak, everything kind of descends into chaos. So like nobody else knows what their role is if you're not going to play your role. And so I'm always interested in that dynamic in families and families in general, because they're such a critical part of, how we become. Our family of origin is, is the foundation of our, sort of our adult life, where we start making choices. So I'm always interested in that.
So interesting. I love that. That's so well put. I've never really thought of it like that everybody has a role to play, and what's yours.
That's because you're an only child, Kristy.
That's true. Yeah, but I have a really big family. Do you think that like the villain in the story knows that they're the villain?
No, definitely not.
I don't either.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I think there's like a lack of self-awareness. Maybe it's me and my
Maybe
if you're a villain, this is a big
maybe
twist.
you're a villain, Kristy. That's possible.
Yeah. Christmas is going to be super interesting this year.
That's right.
If Kristy, Woodson, Harvey is the villain, there is the world is upside down.
Exactly.
Boom.
Major plot twist.
Oh my goodness. Well, what I think is fascinating, Lisa, is that the things you're obsessed with, and we talk about this all the time, like how do we decide what to write about that feels like it's coming from like right here?
Yeah.
And it's the things we're fascinated about, the things we notice, Mary Kay and the houses, and Kristy and families in the South, and Kristin with World War II, and being a light in the darkness. And when you find these things that are really important to you, it's fascinating. You were talking about being obsessed with DNA and with families and with, what happened to you in your childhood. And look how those have worked their way into your books.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think it works. I don't think it could work any other way. Not for me, because the way I write, I write without an outline. I don't know who's going to show up day to day. I don't know what they're going to do. I definitely don't know how my book is going to end. So there has to be an engine, right? For every novel, it's a year-long or more relationship, right? So in that engine is like sort of my ferocious curiosity about people and what makes us who we are, and how we relate to each other, and how our relationships intertwine, and what we'll do for, for various motives. And so, I mean, that's like the thing that makes it, always coming from your center.
Yeah. Do you just start with a premise? You start there and keep going?
I have maybe a maybe like a half sort of essence like like premise. I mainly just have this voice. I usually just have a voice in my head, or it might be a scene, something that I'm seeing over and over.
Okay.
Something, and it's like just a feeling that I know that this is the book, this is the voice, this is what I'm going to follow. I have like some vague idea, enough to kind of let people know that I'm not like, I don't know, writing a romance novel, like, so they're not going to get it and be like, oh wait, what did you write? So that I have kind of a sense of what I'm gonna do, but mainly everything develops for me on the page, just the
Amazing.
same way it will for my reader. Which, to be honest, I don't really think is that different from people who outline. It's just a different process. It's a longer process, and it's a more layered process, because there's that first draft, and then I'll do another two drafts usually at least before I turn that into my editor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I really wanted to ask you about was this transition you made, because in your early, but we just got this fantastic writing tip. I'm going to rewind that and watch it later. We know that in your earlier life, you worked in publishing in New York.
Yes.
So could you talk about making that transition? Because we talk often here about even midlife saying, that's not working for me anymore. Was that a huge, scary change? And how has the publishing industry changed for you since you came to the writing side?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was always a writer. I've been writing since I was a kid.
Okay.
And, I started my first novel when I was 19. I was still in college at the time, and my mom was a librarian. So, it's from her that I, got my love of reading and story. But my dad was an engineer. And so when I kind of put it out there that I thought I wanted to be a writer, he was like, yeah, no, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. People don't write for a living. Like, that's not funny. You need to get like an actual job. And so, I kind of believed him, and so even though, I had been writing all through college, and I, that my whole education was focused on writing and literature. And I had this novel that I started. Instead of pursuing that, I went into publishing. And so, I went into publishing on the publicity side of things. And, unfortunately, I was really, really good at that job. So it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the time that I spent writing got smaller and smaller and smaller until I reached a moment in my life where I realized, I wasn't writing at all. And that, I was going to have to look back, 5 years, 10 years down the road and say, you know what, you never even tried. You never even tried it. And I figured I could live with, spectacular kind of crash and burn failure, but I wasn't going to be able to live with a slow fade to nothing on the only thing I ever wanted to do with my life. And so from that point, I just got really serious about my writing. Turns out there's only one thing you need to do to be a writer. I know we all know what that is. Write. Just write every day. Don't talk about your writing. Don't, make excuses for why you didn't write. Just do it. And so from that point forward, I just, I worked every day. Whether that meant I got up early in the morning, which is, still my golden creative time, whether I wrote on, my commute into the city from my apartment in Brooklyn, or even like during meetings, I might be working on my novel, but I did eventually finish it. And that first novel I started when I was 19. I finished it when I was 29.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was in fact the first novel that I published.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
For those
you've been
of
on
you
both
at home,
sides.
That's incredibly unusual.
Yeah.
Not only that you finish the first novel that you write, but then that 10 years later, you sell the first novel that you write.
Amazing.
It is kind of amazing. It's definitely not the normal story. And the rest of it is sort of like, I went to Sloppy Joe's in Key West. I met my husband there.
Did you really?
I did. And like it was like this Shazam kind of love at first sight moment.
Oh,
Within 6 months, he had proposed. We had both quit our big corporate jobs. I sold my apartment in Brooklyn Heights. I gave myself 1 year to sell that novel and to write another one. And I was like my total like go for broke moment. And so,
I love
that's what I
it.
did. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
So
so
Good
how
on you,
old were you
Lisa.
when you did all that? Were you
I was
29 or 30?
29 going on 30. And
Wow.
my first book published in 2002 when I was 32. 20
Wow.
years ago.
Well,
Mhm.
Good on you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank
Good on
you.
you.
And now she's a Friends and Fiction favorite. And it's
I
just
know. It's
It's like a dream
amazing.
come
Pinnacle.
true every
Yeah.
day.
every day she wakes up and thinks, what can I do for Friends and Fiction?
I
What
love
can I
those
do?
ladies. They're the
Mhm.
best.
Okay, so so many of us love Confessions on the 745, and we are so freaking excited about the Netflix news.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that, and when can we expect to curl up with a big bowl of buttered popcorn to watch it? And
I
will you be involved in the script?
Oh yeah. So it was optioned. Well, Jessica Alba read it and she fell in love with the book.
That's awesome.
And then she brought it to her production company, and her production company brought it to Netflix. And I had an opportunity to talk to Jessica Alba on Zoom, when after she had read the book and decided that was her next project. And that was like, like a major fangirl moment. It was like, and what was amazing about it was that, her persona on Instagram and stuff is like so bubbly, but she's really such a serious reader and so serious about her acting. And she was just very, very, so knowledgeable about the book and the characters. And it just felt like a real love connection. So that was kind of an amazing thing. And then, they brought it into Netflix. Netflix has the option, and then they just signed on a writer. So they have Charisse Castro Smith, who is an Oscar-winning writer of Encanto.
Wow.
And also The Haunting of Hill House, which is a remake on Netflix, which is incredibly well done, beautiful, dark. I think she's in so many ways just perfect for the book, for the material. And she and Jessica Alba are just this amazing, like, powerhouse, team of creative businesswomen. So it's really kind of amazing. I don't know much beyond that. From what I read in the media, they think it's going to be on at some point in 2023. So I don't know if that is true or not, but I'm waiting for the script now. I'm not a screenwriter. That's not something that I want to do or think I have any particular talent for. So I know at some point that I'm going to get the script and that they're going to ask for my notes, and then I'm going to give them my notes, and they're going to, completely ignore everything I say. So, but I'm,
what a nice gesture.
I'm super excited about the project, and, I'm just thrilled to see how it evolves.
Yeah, that's going to be so exciting.
That's great.
Okay, so Kristy, do you have a question to ask?
Sure. Yes, we have so many live questions coming in for you. It's absolutely unbelievable. But I wanted to say, so Jill E. Briggs Anderson said, I've been seeing Lisa's name all over the place, so I'm excited to hear more about her in this book. So that's really cool.
That's great.
So this is a really good one. Jenny Adams and Carrie Soderman both asked the same question.
Ooh, that's good.
What role does Lisa play in her family?
Love it.
Ooh, that's very personal. But yeah, I mean, I have to say it's probably very similar to Hannah's role. Like, I'm the good girl. I'm, Captain Safety. I'm, definitely like, I'm definitely like the don't run on the pool deck, don't laugh while you're eating kind of a mom, like, for sure. In my, sort of grown up family, I'm definitely like sort of the mediator, the hub of, both my family of origin and my, the family that I have created. So yeah, that's very, very much so my role, though of course it has changed, and there is I do have a little bit of a rebellious kind of black sheep strain as well, like the sort of defiant, like, I'm going to do my own thing, whether you think it's a good idea or not, kind of a thing. And that, so that kind of, offers a nice contrast to my usually very good girl demeanor.
That's awesome.
I love it.
I love that. Very cool.
Okay, so who's asking the next question? I'm lost.
Oh,
Do you want to
oh,
do more live questions, or do you want to get to
What do you all think?
yeah,
Do
let's do a couple more live and then sound good?
Yeah.
I'll grab one. So Tammy Rose Dodson would like to know, does Lisa ever have bad dreams after a day of writing?
I love
That's
that
a great
one. I'm so
question.
glad
You
you
know,
asked that.
it's so funny because, you know, like I'm not paranoid because I write thrillers. I write thrillers because I'm paranoid.
Paranoid.
You know, like that part of my personality came first. And so I kind of metabolize all that darkness on the page, you know. So I tend to just kind of, you know, I'm able to live in the light because I exercise all my demons that way, you know. And but that said, I do often dream about my work, and I do have a lot. I think especially because of the way, you know, because of the way I write, I do often have a lot of like 3 a.m. wake ups, you know, where I'm like, okay, that's it, you know. So I do have that quite a bit, but it's not like a nightmarish thing.
I was going to say, you're not waking up because you've terrified yourself.
No, I'm waking up because I need to get to work.
Yeah, you can't wait to get back to the page.
Or you figured out. I know for myself. Sometimes I'll wake up because I've unknotted a plot twist.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm so jealous of that.
I've only had that happen once. I unknotted a plot twist at 3 a.m.
I have really vivid, bizarre dreams, but they're not about my books.
Yeah. 3 a.m. is definitely the witching hour. Like if you wake up at 3 a.m. and then you like drift off back to sleep, it's like a hypnagogic state, I think, because your brain has had enough rest that it might not necessarily, you know, go fully back to sleep, but it's an interesting place and there's a lot of creativity to be found there.
There things bubble up.
For sure.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I love this. I'm dying to know. Elizabeth Marchelina wants to know, have you, Lisa, ever taken a DNA test?
I have not.
Oh, wow. I want to know from everybody. Have you, Mary Kay?
I haven't. My cousins, you know, on my dad's side, we're first generation Irish American, and they have done ancestry.com and all that. I haven't, but not because I don't want to. It's just because of
you just haven't.
Yeah.
Did you, Kristy?
I have not. I have not. I don't know if I will. I mean, I think it'd be really interesting. I don't know. You just hear so many crazy stories.
Yeah.
How about you, Kristin? Did you?
No.
I'm the only one. I definitely did it.
You've done it?
Oh yeah. I wanted to know all the things.
Yeah.
Wait, like a 23,
percentages,
like a 23andMe kind of
everything.
thing? 23andMe, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so is yours public? Like, can people reach out to you and find you?
Only if they match in some way.
But you were. So my mom.
I mean, I've had no surprises. I have like fourth cousins who show up, but they don't try to talk to me. They just pop up on the line or whatever.
That's so interesting.
One of my mom's friends just did it, and she was private, but her aunt did it at the same time, and her aunt was public, and they ended up like finding out all these like really crazy things that you know they never would have known because her aunt, like I think it was like maybe an accident, like I don't even know that it was on purpose, like she didn't like feel the right thing. They were like, we're gonna do this, and then
oh wow,
bombshell news.
Nothing was a shocker for me. My genetic makeup, my family, you know. I know you guys are shocked, but I'm 99.9% British and Irish.
Well, my thing is that my siblings and I have so much family resemblance that it's kind of undeniable. Although, Lisa, there's kind of a little back and forth in Secluded Cabins Sleep 6. Hannah has some ideas to start with.
Yes, they both have some ideas that something is not necessarily what they think, but neither one of them knows what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more question. I'll ask it. Jeannie Cassidy wants to know, and that's a good one. Lisa, what was the name of your novel that you finished and was published 10 years later?
Angel Fire.
Angel Fire.
Yeah, Angel Fire. It was published in 2002, and it's actually still in print, believe it or not.
That's great.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's
It's been reissued. You know, it was published under my maiden name, Lisa Majone. So now it's been republished, Lisa Unger writing as Lisa Michonne. So they're pretty,
wow.
it's fine.
That's
Yeah.
Cool.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, is there anything that two things. Is there anything that you've read recently and loved? And then can you also just tell people where they can buy a signed copy of your book? We know you were on a big time tour.
Absolutely. So I recently just read It's One of Us by JT Ellison, the great JT Ellison. She's
It was so good.
she's just one of our, she's one of our best writers of psychological suspense, and It's One of Us is definitely just, she's at the top of her game. It's sharing a lot of similar kind of pieces to Secluded Cabin, Sleep Sick. So I was like, very eager to dive in and, see what she did with, some of those ideas. And it was just, twisty and layered and so well written, just classic JT Ellison, such a great book. And then, I visited so many wonderful stores over the book tour, and they can all be found on my website at lisaunger.com events. But I launched my book at Tombolo Books here in St. Pete, which is, very near and dear to my heart, and also Oxford Exchange in Tampa. I finished up my tour with them on Sunday. Both of them, just put on these really amazing events, and I'm sure they have signed copies still to ship out to anyone who wants them.
That's awesome.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. Lisa, Kristy and I both have read It's One of Us, and top of her. I'll agree with this. Top of her game. That book
Absolutely.
is so,
It's
and it's so emotionally layered too. It's not just a twisty thriller. It's really
an interesting hybrid, I feel like, of genres.
Yeah. It's just great. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Okay, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind sticking around, please, for one more minute. We have more to talk about with you, but we have a couple announcements we have to make.
I'm here.
Okay. Don't move. Okay, so meanwhile, we have big news about our releases next year. All four of us have 2023 novels out, and we will be doing at least 5 live Friends in Fiction events. So keep your eye out. The first one will be in Columbus, Ohio on April 26th. And I got a DM in my Instagram today from someone who lives in Columbus. And she said, I almost cried when I saw that the Friends in Fiction bus was I know, I'm really excited about Columbus. And then the live launch for my May book, The Secret Book of Flora Lee, is set for May 1st in Charleston, South Carolina. And y'all, this is going to be so much fun. So it is all set. The ticket link is up and there's limited seats. It's going to be at the Riviera Theater on King Street in Charleston. It's with Buxton Books, and it will be a huge Friends in Fiction party that you do not want to miss. So hurry up and get them or buy them as gifts because there's only so many seats in that theater. And we will have 3 more live events after that. 1 in June for Kristin's launch for The Paris Daughter. 1 in July for Kristy's launch, The Summer of Songbirds. And another in the fall for a title I'm still not allowed to say, for Mary Kay's Christmas book. So more details to come on all of it.
That was really brave. Did you get nervous in the middle of that? Like, wait, what was the title again? You did that really well.
I have y'all's books memorized. And Lisa Unger's Secluded Cabin Sleep Set.
Secluded Cabin Sleep Set.
Secluded Cabin Sleep Set.
And, holiday season is a great time to start thinking about our new Friends in Fiction first edition subscription. It's available from indie bookstore Booktown in Manasquan, New Jersey. Features signed hardback first editions from each of us, our brand new 2023 reads, and a kitchen towel that says dinner can wait. It's time for Friends in Fiction. And if you order between now and December 15th, you will be shipped a free exclusive Friends in Fiction Christmas ornament and a holiday card. So it's the perfect way to go ahead and gift the box to someone, let them know it's coming to them pretty much all year long. Or, if you shop like I do, get one for yourself, one for a friend.
One for me.
It's a perfect gift.
Exactly. And of course, we cannot forget about the Zibby Award winning Friends in Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa. So, again, we're just so excited for them. They're so deserving of that award. So, the club is run by our friends Lisa Harrison and Brenda Gardner, otherwise known as PB&J, and they host authors for monthly chats. They have regular happy hours with our Writer's Block podcast host, Ron Block, and they keep everyone in the loop about suggested reads and upcoming releases. So, tomorrow, Thursday, is their Friendsgiving celebration. And on Monday, I will be joining them to talk about the Sweetness of Forgetting's 10th anniversary edition. So make sure you join the book club. All right. So we have one more thing to talk about with Lisa, but don't forget that we are hanging around for an after show to take some of your Ask Us Anything questions.
Well, Lisa, we were going to ask you about your writing and your values in your family, but you already told us that your mom was a librarian.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about where folks can find you in your both real and digital life?
Well, I mean, I'm just everywhere, actually. I'm on Twitter at Lisa Unger, which tells you how long I've been on Twitter, right? Like it's just at Lisa Unger. That's it. And then at LA Unger on Instagram, at author Lisa Unger on Facebook, lisaunger.com. It's my website. And on the website you can find all the stores that I have visited in the country, and you get signed books there, and pretty much anything you never even knew you wanted to know about me can be found on that website.
We love that.
I love that. That's really good. Well, I mean, it's good to have lots of information.
There's lots of information.
Everybody, just a reminder that you can find all of our back episodes on YouTube. We are live there every week, just like we are on Facebook. And if you subscribe, you won't miss a thing. Be sure to come back right here next week for our Thanksgiving special from some of our favorite indie booksellers. And stick around right now for our Ask Us Anything after show. And thank you so much, Lisa, for being a part of Friends in Fiction.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Guys, thank you so much.
You have
for having
the
me.
best voice. I could listen to you talk forever.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. That's so
Really
sweet.
I think that every time I hear you on social media or something, I'm like, gosh, she's such a good voice.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa. I'll see you this winter when I go down to St. Pete to get out of the cold.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Thanks, guys. You're awesome.
Bye, Lisa. You're
Bye,
awesome
Lisa.
too.
Bye.
Bye, Lisa.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
She's great.
She is. Yeah, she's lovely.
great.
She's a
I
gem.
thought it was really, I don't know. Maybe it's because she was in book publishing professionally, but she's got such a gift for summing up,
Yes.
the nut graph, as we used to say
Yeah.
in journalism, for
Yeah.
her novel.
Uh-huh. Good point.
And for her experience. Like she can really
Right.
explain, I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with this and this and this, and it works its way in this way.
Yeah.
I think for the rest of us, it's the way you describe it, Mary Kay, like a lint trap. And we're not really sure what's in there, but she's able to nail what it is that she's obsessed with, that she writes about. And I really, it's making me think how would I list mine?
Yeah. That's so true.
And I think it's, I was with somebody I did a book event in Ohio last week, and I was having dinner with a couple librarians, and one of the librarians said to me, I'm afraid of everything.
Oh, wow.
So she said, I won't swim any place where I can't see to the bottom, because in her mind's eye, everything is coming to get her.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which might not be the best way to be,
to live a life.
but as a writer,
Yeah.
It's such a
Great.
gift.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Such a gift. Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
I mean, I think all of us probably when we were kids had these wild imaginations. I used to,
Sure.
this is weird. Maybe I shouldn't say it. When I was a kid, I used to make
No,
sure
you're
my blankets covered my ear when I was sleeping on my pillow, because I used to think that a little tiny witch would fly
Oh.
into there.
Oh my goodness.
I
There are
know.
actually so many things that I think of now in my adult life that I'm like, wow, like that was really nuts.
That was
And-
really weird.
Yeah.
but
It
it's
even weirder out loud.
But it's never hit me till now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like it's like finally in retrospect, you're like, oh, that was really odd. But like as a kid,
Yep.
it just was what it was. You know?
When
Yeah.
I was young, my parents would watch the news and I would hear Walter Cronkite's voice,
Mm.
which, if you're a certain age, it's a very solemn,
Yeah.
stentorian voice.
Mhm.
And it would send me into ripples of panic.
Oh.
Really?
Because I guess what I remembered about Walter Cronkite's voice was when he came on, he was telling you something bad that had happened. And
Oh.
I must have been quite young when there was something about there was like a prison escape or something.
Oh.
And I can remember going and wanting to hide in a trunk because in my mind's eye as an 8 or 10-year-old, I'm like, well, they're certainly coming right to our house.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
In St.
me,
Peter's.
not just
Yeah.
coming, but for me. Yeah.
So I'll get in this trunk and I'll lift up the lid. And when I don't know what.
Oh my gosh.
The things we think, but maybe that's why
Yeah.
we're able
Probably
to write
nearly
stories.
suffocated yourself, which would have been
Yeah,
a much
exactly.
worse
think
end
so.
to the story.
Yes, we're glad you're still with us. Yeah.
I'm glad I lived to tell the tale. Okay. I'm looking at Meg is everybody home. Meg is feeding us questions from Ask Us Anything. And I have to tell you the comment she just put in our side chat, which is that she definitely thought Son of Sam was coming for her in the 70s.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well,
Oh my
mine
God.
was Patty Hearst because they kidnapped her, and my name
Yep.
is Patty.
Oh
So
yeah.
I always was thinking somebody was coming to get me.
Wow.
Cars
used
that
to-
slowed down,
Oh, that's creepy.
bangs in the night, that kind of thing.
When we first moved to Florida, I was very worried about alligators. I was 10 and my sister was 7 and my brother was 4. 6 and 3. And I used to make them run alligator drills in the backyard. Like I had all these drills
No
set
way.
up to like evade the alligators because I'd read that you had to run zigzag. So
I believe that.
I strategically positioned baseball bats around our yard, like out of sight, so that if you needed to grab a baseball bat and like whack the alligator while you were running your
Kristy.
zigzag drills.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. That'd be a great scene in a book about
It
kids.
really
But-
would be.
I never got eaten by an alligator, so I mean,
She's here to tell the
I don't know.
tale.
I'm here to tell the
She's here to
tale. So
tell the
who's
tale.
And a
who's to
witch
say I
never
was
flew in
wrong?
my ear, as far as I know.
Well,
and-
as far as you know, Patty,
far as I know.
there's no real proof for that one.
Good point. Good point.
Okay, before we get any more into this, I'm supposed to remind you that for all you writers out there, we're doing a daily writing tip for NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. National Novel Writing Month. Oh, I got it right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just go to our Facebook page and you will see, and Instagram, you'll see daily writing tips from our amazing past guests. And I have to tell you all, I'm going back and looking at them.
Isn't
Because
it fun
I'm
to see
trying to
them
finish a
pop up
book and
every
I
day?
need-
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need that
Really
Yeah.
good.
reinforcement. Yeah.
Yeah, and huge thank you to Patty and Meg
I was
for
gonna say, thank
pulling
you,
all of
Patty.
those. Yeah, that
Yes,
was
thank you.
yeah.
I loved it because every time I read one of those, and I've been
Mhm.
trying to repost them on my stories on Instagram every day for y'all, but I'm reminded like, oh yeah, I'm not alone, or oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
good point.
great. Yep, I love reading them. Just because
Yeah.
we're writers doesn't mean we don't need writing tips. That's for sure.
Or that
Yeah,
we
I
feel like
saw
we know
Harlan
what we're
Coben's the
doing.
other day about, you basically you spit out a lump of coal and then you hammer it into a book. And I thought, okay, thanks, Harlan.
Yep.
So I need to remember that.
Yeah.
I think that's where I am. I'm at the coal stage right now.
Okay, do we have
Yeah.
some more questions from the Ask Us Anything?
Sure.
It looks like Mary Vasquez asked, what is your favorite? This is not a writing question. What is
No,
your
it doesn't
favorite
have to be.
Thanksgiving side dish? Ooh,
Yeah. Great
cranberry sauce. All day, every
Ooh.
day, cranberry sauce.
Yeah, I remember us having this
Ooh.
conversation last year and being like, "Ugh, really?"
Yeah.
one.
I love cranberry sauce. I like the
Yeah,
one in the
it is good.
can.
That's
I love
good.
the lumpy one. I love them all.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm with you,
awesome.
Patty. I love me some cranberry sauce plopped right on my turkey.
Yep. Just like
okay.
shake the can out
Okay,
with the
I
ridges.
have to be honest, y'all. I'm having one of those moments right now. I've never had cranberry sauce.
What?
So I'm just sitting here. It's not like we don't have it. We do. It's just like as a kid, I was like, I'm not eating that. And I've still never eaten it. Okay. So that is going to be
Wow.
my, and I love cranberries. So that's going to be my Thanksgiving challenge is
I'm
I'm going
gonna-
to eat cranberry sauce and report back to you guys.
I'm going to make you some homemade cranberry sauce, put it in a thing and mail it to you. Probably get mushy thing. I'm not going to do that. The next time I see you, I'm going to get you some cranberry sauce.
Okay, but Patty, do you make cranberry sauce?
I have, but I'm telling you, it's still the kind in the can with you plop it out and it's got the ridges in it.
That's the kind my mother always made.
And easier to mail to Kristy. So
I'll just mail her a
we all
couple
win.
cans.
That's true. That's true.
I have made it like the fancy with the orange rind and the pepper.
I do love that.
I love it.
Yep.
But I will admit to you that, I go to physical therapy 3 times a week now, and there's a Trader Joe's across from my physical therapist's clinic. And so I went in there today and I bought a jar of Trader Joe's cranberry orange relish.
Ooh, they have good stuff. They have good Thanksgiving stuff there. I like their stuffing too. Their Thanksgiving stuffing. Yeah, they actually have they have a very good gluten-free stuffing, Patty. If you've ever
I'll have to go find
it.
it.
It's actually delicious. It's at Trader Joe's, and I think it's $5.99 for a big old box of it.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna
Kristin,
go
what's
for it.
your favorite Thanksgiving side?
I think it's creamed onions. My mom always makes those Holland onions that come in a jar. She has a recipe where she creams them, and there's like nutmeg in the cream, and they're just really good. Like they're good on their own. They're good mixed in with mashed potatoes and stuffing. They're good on turkey. Like they just make the plate for me.
Kristy, what do you got?
I like green bean casserole, and I know that's like kind of a controversial one, and like people love that or hate that. Okay, it's cranberry sauce down there.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Kristy, you're not really telling me that you like canned green beans with a can of mushroom soup and a can of fried onion
That's
rings.
exactly what I'm telling you.
Wow.
I don't like it with the canned green beans. I like it when they do it with like when they're done with fresh green beans.
See, I'm being real with you here. I feel like when we eat them like in a normal week we eat fresh green beans. I love a canned green bean like 20 times more than a fresh green bean.
I can't stand canned green beans.
slimy.
I'm like
love them.
having
I
a little
love
vomity feeling right now even thinking about it.
I'm reassessing everything I know.
Meg
about you,
loves
Kristy.
them too. Meg, team canned green beans. Sean, on your
Wait, what
Sean.
is Sean like?
We need to know.
yeah.
How about you,
Nah.
Mary Kay? What's
Nah, he
yours?
says.
Nah, he says nah.
I make this it's really not a side, it's really a dessert, but I make a really good sweet potato souffle, and it's got thank you, Sean. Thank you.
Sweet potato.
Yeah, so it's got like a topping of basically chopped up pecans, and I like a crunchy topping, and then the souffle part that's of course got a lot of brown sugar in it.
Yep.
So the topping has like chopped up pecans, and it's the one time in my life I buy one of those little boxes of cornflakes that get chopped up.
I like those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Meg is saying team stuffing.
Oh, I love
Okay,
team
so
stuffing.
Meg is saying, why
I
has
love
no one
stuffing
said
too.
stuffing? I have a good answer for that, because stuffing is so hit or miss depending on where you go, because there's so many
That's
different
true.
ways to make stuffing. I have sat down to holiday tables before because stuffing is my favorite. Like on my mom's table, maybe like right alongside the creamed onions. But
Yeah.
sometimes if it's not the right
You might as
stuffing
well
and
eat
it doesn't
stale bread. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
if
right,
it's or if
right.
it just doesn't but it's not that it's bad. It's just stuffing like it has to taste the way that the stuffing you grew up with tastes, and like so often it doesn't, and then it's a different
Yep.
thing. And stuffing's dicey for me. I love
But
stuffing though.
good stuffing, it's like
Oh,
almost like
yes.
bread pudding. Yeah.
I remember an episode of Cheers where Woody is talking about his favorite. They're talking at the bar about favorite things, and Woody says, "Oh, is your mom's dressing like so dry you could choke on it? Because that's the kind I like."
Oh.
I love that.
I was actually looking up, they had a thing in the New York Times this Sunday of a whole bunch of different.
Oh my God, those pies.
Yes, it was all Thanksgiving recipes. And I was like taking pictures and yeah, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll try something new this year. Maybe that's what we do. Everybody, Kristy, I'll eat some green beans out of a can. You eat some cranberry sauce. You eat some stuffing.
Well, and you know, I've got to say, the Friends in Fiction book club has been posting some recipes on their site or on their page because they're having their Friendsgiving celebration tomorrow.
I don't like to toot my own horn, but I do have a cookbook called the Beach House Cookbook, and I have a whole Thanksgiving.
Yes, perfectly.
And the sweet potatoes are in there.
Yeah.
The sweet potatoes are in there. The cranberries are in there. I'm not making the cranberries this year. I just bought the.
Is there a stuffing recipe?
I don't know if I put a stuffing recipe. I mean, in my family, because you know, on my dad's side we're Irish. The taters are.
We do mashed taters. Yeah,
crucially important. And I do have a tip for all of you who have limited space or whatever, because we're having Thanksgiving at my son's house down in Albany, Georgia. And his kitchen is not large, and he does not have what I would call a fully stocked kitchen. So my thing that I don't know, I saw somewhere a few years ago, I make the mashed potatoes and I keep them warm in the slow cooker.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So you don't have to take up a stove, a burner the stove or the oven or whatever.
I'm stealing that. That's great.
Yep.
I'm sharing my really easy fudge recipe on the book.
That's very Thanksgiving-y.
Well, it's not, but it's more Christmassy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's a crowd pleaser. Like I take it everywhere, and maybe people just
could you mail me some?
Could you? Yeah, I could mail you some, and it's gluten free. So
fantastic. Ooh, I have a great fudge recipe too. We could have a fudge off. We'll both mail our fudges to Patti and let her pick the winner.
I'm already thinking about the marketing thing, which is fudge you.
we can do like a live tasting on the show, and like we can have Megan, Sean, and Ron come too, and everybody. And Ron's a real foodie, so
I like it. And meanwhile, you can try like canned.
You're saying that because you feel
cranberries.
Yeah, then we'll do a cranberry one.
But I feel really confident about my.
I was gonna say you're feeling confident.
Oh, I'm confident about mine too. You don't want to go head to head with this fudge. I'm just saying,
Mine is like I bet Kristin's is kind of like upscale, and like mine is like I bet her, like, just for like a comparison, Kristin probably makes like Godiva fudge, and I am like, Hershey's chocolate syrup fudge.
They both taste good.
They're both really good, just in different ways.
Y'all are making me so hungry.
I'm so hungry too. We gotta go.
Okay, well, wait. Should we answer one more question?
Mary said she didn't know she'd be such an instigator asking about side dishes. We just talked about that for like 12 minutes.
That's hilarious.
That's what happens when you ask us a question about food when we're all hungry.
When we're off script, exactly. You don't want to. No.
All right. Somebody has an actual writing question, and it's Cindy Brown. Wait, somebody else can read that question.
Just read it. Go.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I've been the blabbermouth all night.
No, you haven't. Go ahead.
Okay, Cindy Brown says, "Are you all starting your next books?" Except for in process MKA. Or do you get some time off?
What's time off?
What's
Yeah,
that?
what is the meaning of this phrase? Yeah.
What is this phrase? Somebody
Okay,
used?
Kristy, you answer because you are
can answer.
the
No, but I am in copy edits for Summer of Songbirds, but I am also my personal editing of my next book.
she's
which-
written the first draft of her next book, y'all.
In like a day. It's
Well,
annoying.
yes, but my deadline is technically one thing, but would like to be another thing. So I had a lot less time than I thought I was going to. So I've been kind of like cranky about it. But it's been, but that book was, it came, I don't know. You know how sometimes a book just like comes, like that
No.
book just came.
No. I
Okay,
don't
well,
know that.
it's not, I mean, and now reading it back, I'm like, wow, this book needs so much work. But like the first draft really just kind of rolled, which is good.
That's awesome. We're just jealous. We're
Yeah.
teasing you because we're jealous.
It's not good. It just
It's a coal. You've got a lump of coal. That's
I've got a
something.
goal.
Yeah.
Kristin, what about you?
I'm in the research phase for my next book. So I know what it's going to be about, but I'm at that phase where I'm sifting through information and opening myself up to like whatever thoughts come. And sometimes thoughts come that like kind of weave in a way that I didn't expect. So that's where I am right now.
Well, Patti, I kind of personally know where you are, but do you want to share that?
I'm in the so if you've been to a Friends in Fiction live event, we talk about how sometimes you get in the muddy middle and one of two things happens in that space. You're like, I see it. And you take a run for the finish line, or you say, it's not here. I can't see there. I can't. So I was hoping you'd skip that question. So yes, I am working, and no, we don't take time off because we're always, once we finish something, I think all four of us immediately dive into something else. So right now I'm in the middle of something that I'm kind of in quicksand. So I'm not sure what'll happen, but that's where I am.
Yeah, and I am, as you know, if you follow me on social media, desperately trying to finish this book that I'm 2 months over deadline on. But I have a concept and I have a synopsis for the next book. So as soon as this is in and as soon as I get the revisions in, then I will launch myself into the next book. All right. That is everything for everyone tonight.
Wait, I have an idea. The next time we're together, you make sweet potatoes, you make green beans, you make stuffing or fudge, and I'll make cranberry sauce. And that'll be our whole meal.
I feel like I've kind of already won the fudge.
We're missing a
competition, I'm just
protein.
saying.
I know. But
In our heads, we've both already won the fudge competition.
We're totally having a fudge off for Christmas.
We totally are. You have to mail it to me and Kathy, and we're just going to eat it live on the show.
I'm telling you, we're going to do something called Fudge You. And
okay, good night, you guys. Good night.
that's enough
Good night, guys.
tomfoolery. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night at 7 Eastern for our Thanksgiving special. Until then, have a great week and happy reading. Good night.
Bye,
Good night.